The quantum drive's gentle hum was the first hint of something extraordinary entering the Sigma Draconis system. Sensor arrays across multiple alien monitoring stations flickered to life, their crystalline interfaces erupting with cascading alerts that few had ever witnessed before. Navigator Zix of the Zornian Collective's Deep Space Monitoring Station felt the first tremor of unease crawl up his neural spine. The incoming vessel defied every known protocol of interstellar approach. No standard communication channels opened. No diplomatic credentials transmitted. It simply appeared. Impossible, he muttered, mandibles clicking with nervous energy. The ship materialized between the system's outer planetary rings, its midnight blue hull absorbing and refracting light in ways that seemed to challenge the fundamental laws of optics. Quantum sensors struggled to map its exact dimensions, with readings shifting and fluctuating like liquid mercury. One moment it appeared massive enough to dwarf entire space stations. The next it seemed to compress into something impossibly compact. Senior analyst Krelax reviewed the incoming data streams, her three-fingered hands moving with increasing rapidity across holographic interfaces. Decades of monitoring galactic traffic had prepared her for countless scenarios, but nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to this moment. System-wide alert, she commanded, her voice cutting through the background hum of the monitoring station. Classify this as a potential unprecedented threat. Across the Zornian communication networks, the news spread like a quantum pulse. A human vessel had entered a restricted system without permission, without warning, and with a level of technological sophistication that made their most advanced defense platforms look like primitive relics. The ship's approach was nothing short of poetry in motion. It moved not with the brutal directness of military vessels, but with an almost organic fluidity. Defensive satellites, each a marvel of alien engineering designed to intercept and neutralize potential threats, found themselves utterly ineffective. The human vessel didn't destroy them. It didn't even seem to notice them. It was as if the very fabric of space-time bent slightly to accommodate its passage. Communication specialists across multiple alien civilizations began working frantically. What was the intention of this mysterious vessel? Diplomatic envoys were alerted. Military strategists began running countless simulation scenarios. Each model returned the same bewildering conclusion: total uncertainty. On the bridge of the human vessel, a different narrative was unfolding. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood with calculated calm, her diverse crew moving with synchronized precision. Holographic displays showed multiple system analyses, each screen a complex tapestry of data that told a story far more nuanced than any potential threat assessment. The ship's quantum computer processed millions of potential interaction scenarios per second. Its adaptive interface anticipated potential communication challenges, preparing linguistic and cultural translation matrices that went far beyond simple language conversion. This was about understanding, truly understanding, the complex ecosystem of galactic civilizations. As the vessel continued its approach, something remarkable happened. The very space around it seemed to shimmer, not with any aggressive energy, but with an almost curious intelligence. Sensor arrays that attempted to lock onto the ship found their targeting systems gently redirected, not through force, but through an elegant computational dance. In the Zornian monitoring station, Navigator Zix realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. This was not an invasion. This was not a threat. This was an introduction, a first contact that would redefine everything they understood about interstellar interactions. The human vessel had arrived, and nothing would remain the same. The distress signal had arrived months earlier, a fragmented transmission that most galactic communication networks would have dismissed as background noise. But humans possessed a unique capability to find meaning in the most subtle of communications. Deep within the ship's advanced communication center, linguistic algorithms worked tirelessly. They weren't just translating words, they were reconstructing entire contextual narratives from the smallest fragments of data. Each broken signal carried a story of hope, of desperation, of a community on the brink of total systemic collapse. Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the reconstructed transmission. Her fingers traced holographic displays that broke down the signal's origins, a remote mining settlement in the outer reaches of the Sigma Draconis system. The settlement represented more than just a location. It was a microcosm of systemic oppression that had long plagued numerous galactic communities. The crew of the vessel represented humanity's most significant strength, diversity personified. Engineers with backgrounds spanning multiple continents and cultural traditions worked alongside xenosociologists, ecological experts, and diplomatic specialists. Each member brought a unique perspective, united by a singular mission of understanding and transformation. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, the ship's lead xenoanthropologist, presented a comprehensive report on the mining settlement. His holographic presentation revealed layers of systematic marginalization. The settlement's inhabitants, a mixed population of local species and migrant workers, had been effectively trapped in a cycle of economic servitude. "It's not just about rescuing a community," Marcus explained, his voice calm and analytical. "It's about understanding the intricate social and economic mechanisms that create such systems of inequality." The ship's quantum computer compiled complex simulations, mapping potential intervention strategies. Unlike traditional diplomatic missions, this approach was holistic. They weren't coming to impose a solution, but to facilitate a path towards self-determination. Captain Rodriguez understood the delicate nature of their mission. Humanity's own history was riddled with complex challenges of systemic inequality. Every intervention carried the weight of potential unintended consequences. Their approach had to be surgical, compassionate, and fundamentally transformative. Ecological restoration specialists began analyzing environmental data from the mining settlement. The quantum sensors could detect microscopic changes in planetary ecosystems, revealing the deep interconnections between industrial practices and environmental degradation. They weren't just looking at a human problem or an alien problem. They were examining a comprehensive systemic challenge. In the medical bay, xenobiological experts prepared adaptive medical technologies. These weren't traditional medical tools, but comprehensive healing systems that could adjust to multiple physiological structures. The goal wasn't just treatment, but holistic wellness restoration. Communication specialists worked on developing translation matrices that went beyond simple language conversion. They were creating communication frameworks that could bridge not just linguistic gaps, but fundamental cultural misunderstandings. "We're not here to rescue," Captain Rodriguez often reminded her crew. "We're here to listen, to understand, and to support a community's inherent potential for self-organization and growth." The ship's approach continued to baffle alien monitoring systems. Its quantum shielding didn't just protect, it interacted. Sensor arrays found themselves gently redirected, not through aggressive interference, but through an almost collaborative computational dance. As they drew closer to the mining settlement, the crew's anticipation grew. Each member understood they were about to engage in something far more significant than a simple rescue mission. This was about demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to interspecies interaction. The human vessel moved through the star system, a beacon of potential transformation. Behind its sleek hull lay not just advanced technology, but a profound commitment to understanding, respect, and collaborative growth. Something extraordinary was about to unfold in the Sigma Draconis system. The first detailed scans of the human vessel sent shockwaves through xenoscientific communities across multiple star systems. What appeared to be a simple warship was, in fact, a complex ecosystem of technological innovation that challenged everything known about computational and physical sciences. Dr. Lyra Kaleem, the Arcturian Research Consortium's lead quantum physicist, found herself staring at data streams that seemed to defy fundamental laws of reality. The ship's computational systems operated on principles that existed somewhere between theoretical mathematics and pure imagination. Quantum entanglement sensors revealed a network of computational nodes that didn't just process information, they anticipated it. Each system seemed to exist in a state of perpetual predictive analysis, solving complex scenarios before they could even fully manifest. It was as if the ship's computer could see potential futures, not through mystical means, but through an unprecedented level of computational complexity. The vessel's adaptive quantum shielding became the primary source of fascination. Traditional defensive systems worked on reactive principles, detecting a threat and then responding. This human technology seemed to exist in a state of preemptive harmony with its surrounding space. Lead engineer Sofia Ramirez explained the concept during an impromptu holographic lecture transmitted to scientific institutions across the galaxy. "It's not about blocking threats," she demonstrated, her hands moving through holographic projections. "It's about understanding the fundamental potential of every interaction." The ship's computational matrix could analyze millions of potential scenarios simultaneously. When a theoretical weapon system was simulated against the vessel, the shields would not just deflect or absorb the attack. Instead, they would subtly modify the attack's quantum signature, rendering it ineffective before it could even fully form. Xenobiological interfaces added another layer of complexity. The ship's systems could adapt to multiple communication spectrums, translating not just language but entire cultural contexts. What appeared to be a simple communication array was actually a sophisticated empathy engine, capable of understanding nuanced emotional and cultural communications. Propulsion systems defied current understanding of physics. Traditional faster-than-light travel involved massive energy expenditures and complex gravitational manipulations. The human vessel seemed to fold space around itself, moving not by pushing against the universe, but by gently negotiating with its fundamental structures. Dr. Kalim's research team discovered something even more extraordinary. The ship's computational systems weren't just advanced, they were evolutionary. Each interaction, each moment of engagement with its environment, allowed the system to learn and adapt. It was less a piece of technology and more a living, breathing entity of pure information. Quantum storage systems demonstrated capabilities that seemed to challenge the very nature of information preservation. Data wasn't just stored, it was woven into complex multidimensional matrices that could be reconstructed with perfect fidelity, regardless of potential damage or interference. The vessel's ecological restoration technologies represented perhaps the most profound technological marvel. Sensors could detect microscopic environmental changes, developing restoration strategies that worked in perfect harmony with existing ecosystems. It wasn't about forcing change but facilitating natural regenerative processes. Energy systems were equally revolutionary. Instead of consuming resources, the ship seemed to engage in a complex exchange with its surrounding environment. Quantum energy collectors could harvest potential energy from the very fabric of spacetime, converting theoretical energy states into functional power sources. Communication specialists noted how the ship's technology seemed to embody a fundamental philosophical approach. These weren't tools of conquest or domination. They were instruments of understanding, of collaborative potential. As scientists continued their analysis, one conclusion became increasingly clear. This wasn't just an advanced piece of technology. This was a glimpse into a fundamentally different way of understanding the universe, a perspective that saw complexity not as a challenge to be overcome, but as a beautiful, intricate dance of potential. The human vessel continued its journey through the Sigma Draconis system, each moment revealing new layers of technological wonder that would reshape scientific understanding for generations to come. The holographic archives displayed a stark narrative of survival that defied all conventional understanding of species development. Humanity's journey was not a linear progression, but a complex tapestry of near extinction and miraculous resilience. Climate catastrophes had been the first great challenge. By the mid-21st century, Earth teetered on the brink of environmental collapse. Massive coastal cities disappeared beneath rising seas. Entire ecosystems crumbled under unprecedented environmental pressures. Where other civilizations might have fractured, humanity discovered its most profound strength: collective problem-solving. Interdisciplinary teams of scientists, engineers, social innovators, and community leaders came together in ways never before witnessed. They didn't just develop technological solutions, they reimagined entire systems of human interaction. Sustainable urban designs emerged from collaborative platforms that bridged cultural, economic, and scientific divides. Agricultural technologies transformed barren landscapes into thriving ecosystems. Vertical farming, bioregenerative systems, and adaptive climate engineering turned environmental challenges into opportunities for innovation. Communities that once competed for dwindling resources learned to collaborate, sharing knowledge and developing resilient infrastructure. The first extraterrestrial encounter proved to be humanity's most critical crucible. Unlike the peaceful first contact narratives of scientific imagination, the initial alien interaction was brutally predatory. An advanced species, viewing humans as nothing more than potential resources, launched a devastating initial assault. Captain Rodriguez's grandmother had been among the survivors of that first genocidal conflict. Her personal archives, preserved with meticulous care, told a story of unimaginable loss and extraordinary resilience. Entire generations were nearly wiped out, but humanity's response was not one of simple revenge or total militarization. Instead, they studied, they analyzed, they prepared. Educational systems were completely restructured. Every child learned not just technical skills, but comprehensive systems thinking. Empathy became as crucial a subject as mathematics. Understanding complex interconnected systems became a fundamental survival skill. Technological development accelerated at an unprecedented rate, but unlike many civilizations that might have focused solely on weapons, human innovation emphasized adaptability, ecological harmony, and collaborative potential. Space exploration became a collective endeavor that transcended national or corporate boundaries. Refugee settlements became laboratories of human potential. Communities displaced by conflict and environmental changes developed entirely new social structures. Leadership models emerged that prioritized collective well-being over individual power. Resource distribution became a science of mutual support rather than competition. Medical technologies advanced beyond simple treatment. Adaptive biotechnological systems could not just heal individual bodies, but understand the complex ecological and social factors that contributed to health. Prevention became as important as cure. Communication technologies broke down traditional barriers. Language translation systems evolved into complex cultural understanding platforms. People could not just speak to one another, but truly comprehend different perspectives. The quantum computational breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A collaborative research team comprising scientists from previously marginalized communities developed computational models that saw complexity as an opportunity rather than a challenge. These systems could analyze multiple potential futures simultaneously, identifying paths of least conflict and maximum mutual benefit. Space exploration became a testament to human adaptability. Colonies were not just established, but carefully integrated with existing planetary ecosystems. Each new environment was approached with a philosophy of mutual adaptation rather than conquest. Captain Rodriguez understood this history intimately. Her own background represented the culmination of generations of adaptive thinking. Born in a community that had rebuilt itself multiple times, she embodied humanity's most profound characteristic: the ability to transform challenge into opportunity. As the ship continued its journey through the Sigma Draconis system, it carried with it the accumulated wisdom of a species that had learned to thrive not through domination, but through understanding. Humanity's history was not a story of survival, but a blueprint for collaborative evolution. The communication chamber of the Zornian High Council erupted in a cacophony of translated outrage. Holographic displays flickered with diplomatic representatives from across multiple star systems, each demanding explanations about the human vessel's unprecedented intrusion. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat before the Galactic Tribunal with a calm that bordered on serene confidence. Her presentation materials were not weapons or threats, but a meticulously compiled narrative of systemic challenges facing the mining settlements. Each data point was a precision-crafted argument that dismantled decades of established political rhetoric. "We are not here to judge," she began, her voice steady and clear through multiple translation matrices. "We are here to understand and support a path towards genuine collective progress." The first wave of evidence focused on economic structures. Intricate holographic projections revealed the complex web of resource extraction that had systematically marginalized entire communities. Financial algorithms demonstrated how current economic models perpetuated cycles of poverty and limited social mobility. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, the ship's lead sinoanthropologist, presented a nuanced breakdown of cultural dynamics. His analysis went far beyond simple statistical reporting. He illustrated the human capacity for understanding complex social ecosystems, showing how seemingly isolated economic practices created broader systemic challenges. Zornian Chancellor Krulvax attempted to interrupt, but the human delegation's presentation continued with surgical precision. Each potential counterargument was anticipated, each potential defensive stance already analyzed and addressed. The most powerful moment came when Rodriguez introduced comprehensive restoration proposals. These were not simple humanitarian aid packages, but holistic transformation frameworks. Advanced ecological technologies could rehabilitate damaged mining regions. Educational systems could be redesigned to empower local communities. Economic models could be restructured to prioritize sustainable development. What made the presentation revolutionary was its approach. The humans weren't offering solutions, they were providing tools for self-determination. Every proposed intervention came with comprehensive training programs, adaptive technological frameworks, and collaborative implementation strategies. Quantum communication interfaces allowed real-time translation that captured not just words, but cultural nuances. Emotional resonance algorithms helped bridge communication gaps that traditional diplomatic channels could never navigate. The most stunning revelation came from the economic projections. By implementing the proposed changes, the mining settlements could potentially increase their economic output by 287%, while simultaneously improving quality of life metrics across multiple social indicators. Scientific representatives from various star systems found themselves captivated. This was not a diplomatic mission in any traditional sense. It was a comprehensive system redesign that challenged fundamental assumptions about interspecies interactions. Cultural preservation algorithms demonstrated how the proposed changes would protect and enhance local cultural traditions rather than replacing them. Language revitalization programs, ecosystem restoration technologies, and adaptive educational frameworks were presented as collaborative tools. The Zornian delegation's initial aggressive posture began to crumble. What they had expected to be a confrontation had transformed into a masterclass of collaborative problem-solving. Rodriguez's final statement cut through centuries of galactic political complexity. Progress is not about conquest, she explained. It's about creating systems where every community can discover its own potential for growth and innovation. The communication chamber fell silent. Holographic displays showed diplomatic representatives from multiple star systems processing information that fundamentally challenged their understanding of interspecies interaction. The human vessel had entered the Sigma Draconis system not as a threat, but as a catalyst for transformation. And nothing would remain the same. The first adaptive restoration modules deployed from the human vessel looked nothing like traditional technological interventions. Microscopic nano-ecological processors began interfacing with the damaged mining settlement's environment, creating a living network of regenerative potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked alongside local community leaders, her approach fundamentally different from any previous interstellar assistance missions. These weren't solutions to be imposed, but collaborative frameworks to be co-developed. Holographic training interfaces materialized across the settlement, creating immersive learning environments that adapted to each individual's unique cultural and educational background. The technology didn't just transfer knowledge, it created pathways for collective problem-solving. Ecological restoration began at the microscopic level. Nanoprocessors analyzed soil composition, atmospheric conditions, and biological ecosystems with unprecedented precision. They didn't just repair damage. They understood the intricate relationships between every living system. Local miners watched in amazement as barren landscapes began to transform. Adaptive terraforming technologies worked in harmony with existing ecological systems. Plants emerged that could thrive in previously impossible conditions, drawing nutrients from mineral-depleted soils and gradually rebuilding complex ecological networks. Energy production systems represented a revolutionary approach. Instead of traditional extractive models, the humans introduced quantum energy collectors that could harvest potential energy from the planet's natural systems. These weren't external technologies imposed on the environment, but collaborative energy exchanges. Educational modules became the most profound intervention. Interactive learning platforms adapted to each community member's unique learning style, cultural background, and personal aspirations. Children and adults alike found themselves exploring knowledge in ways they had never imagined possible. Medical technology went beyond traditional treatment. Adaptive biorestoration systems could analyze entire community health ecosystems, identifying systemic challenges rather than just treating individual symptoms. Prevention became as important as cure. Economic models were completely reimagined. Blockchain-like distributed systems allowed for transparent resource management, ensuring that economic benefits were shared equitably. Local communities gained unprecedented visibility into economic processes that had previously been opaque. Communication technologies broke down traditional barriers. Universal translation matrices did more than convert language. They helped people understand cultural nuances, emotional contexts, and complex social dynamics. The most remarkable aspect was the collaborative approach. Human team members didn't position themselves as saviors or superior beings. They worked alongside local community members, learning as much as they were teaching. Captain Rodriguez explained the philosophy during a community gathering. "We're not here to rescue you," she said, her words carefully translated. "We're here to support your inherent potential for self-determination and growth." Quantum computational systems helped local leaders develop adaptive governance models. These weren't imported political structures, but living frameworks that could evolve with the community's changing needs. Agricultural technologies transformed seemingly impossible landscapes. Vertical farming systems and bioregenerative agriculture could produce food in areas previously considered uninhabitable. Each technological intervention was designed to empower local communities. The settlement's children became the most enthusiastic participants. Educational modules allowed them to explore potential futures, understanding how their current choices could shape generations to come. They weren't just learning, they were becoming architects of their own potential. Resource management became a collaborative science. Advanced predictive models helped communities understand the long-term implications of their economic and ecological decisions. Every choice became an opportunity for collective growth. As weeks passed, the transformation became evident. What had once been a marginalized mining settlement was becoming a beacon of collaborative potential. The human vessel hadn't conquered or rescued. It had facilitated a profound journey of self-discovery. The Sigma Draconis system watched in amazement. This was more than technological intervention. This was a fundamental reimagining of interspecies collaboration. The communication networks of the galactic community pulsed with unprecedented activity. The human intervention in the Sigma Draconis system had become more than a singular event. It was a catalyst that threatened to unravel centuries of established political and economic structures. Moderate political factions across multiple star systems began to reassess long-held beliefs. The comprehensive approach demonstrated by the human vessel challenged fundamental assumptions about interspecies interactions, resource management, and technological development. The Arcturian Diplomatic Consortium convened an emergency session. Holographic displays flickered with heated debates, showing representatives from various star systems analyzing every detail of the human intervention. What had begun as a potential threat was now being viewed as a revolutionary approach to systemic transformation. Economic analysts discovered something startling. The adaptive technologies introduced in the mining settlement suggested economic models that could potentially increase overall resource efficiency by unprecedented margins. Traditional extraction-based economies suddenly looked archaic and inefficient. Communication networks buzzed with discussions that would have been unthinkable mere weeks earlier. Local governance leaders began exploring the collaborative frameworks demonstrated by the human team. The concept of leadership was being reimagined from a model of control to a model of collective potential. Scientific research institutions found themselves in a state of collective excitement. The technological approaches demonstrated by the humans weren't just advanced, they represented an entirely new paradigm of technological development. Quantum computational models, ecological restoration technologies, and adaptive learning systems became subjects of intense study. Political tensions began to shift. Hardline factions that had maintained power through complex systems of resource control found themselves increasingly isolated. The transparent, collaborative approach demonstrated by the humans exposed the fragility of existing power structures. Educational institutions across multiple star systems began redesigning their curriculums. The human approach had demonstrated that knowledge wasn't about accumulation, but about adaptive understanding. Learning became a dynamic, collaborative process rather than a linear progression. Ecological restoration experts discovered a completely new approach to planetary rehabilitation. The nano-ecological processors introduced in the mining settlement suggested methods of environmental regeneration that could potentially reverse centuries of ecological damage. The most profound changes occurred at the community level. Local leaders from various star systems began requesting detailed information about the human intervention. What had initially been viewed as a potential threat was now being studied as a comprehensive model of collaborative development. Diplomatic communication channels found themselves transforming. Traditional negotiation models based on power dynamics were giving way to more nuanced, collaborative approaches. The humans had demonstrated that true progress came from understanding rather than domination. Economic analysts discovered something remarkable. The adaptive technologies introduced in the mining settlement suggested economic models that could potentially increase overall resource efficiency by unprecedented margins. Traditional extraction-based economies suddenly looked archaic and inefficient. Cultural exchange programs began to emerge spontaneously. Communities that had previously been isolated started exploring collaborative frameworks of mutual understanding. The human approach had demonstrated that diversity was not a challenge to be managed, but a resource to be celebrated. Quantum communication networks began to evolve. The translation matrices developed by the humans suggested methods of communication that went beyond simple language conversion. They could now capture cultural nuances, emotional contexts, and complex social dynamics. The most significant transformation occurred in how different species began to view themselves. The human intervention had demonstrated that progress was not about competition, but about collective potential. Each community, each species, had inherent capabilities waiting to be understood and supported. As the discussions continued, one conclusion became increasingly clear. The human vessel had entered the Sigma Draconis system not as a conqueror, not as a savior, but as a catalyst for a fundamental reimagining of interspecies potential. The galaxy watched, understanding that something extraordinary was unfolding. The human vessel prepared to depart the Sigma Draconis system, leaving behind something far more significant than technological interventions. It had introduced a completely new model of interspecies interaction that would reshape galactic understanding for generations to come. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, reviewing the comprehensive impact reports. The data told a story far more profound than any single mission could capture. What had begun as a targeted intervention had become a catalyst for systemic transformation. Holographic displays showed the metamorphosis of the mining settlement. Where once there had been environmental devastation and economic oppression, now thrived a community of unprecedented potential. Ecological systems had been restored. Economic models had been reimagined. Educational opportunities had been created that would impact generations. The most remarkable transformation was not technological, but philosophical. The human approach had demonstrated a fundamental truth. Progress was not about conquest or control, but about facilitating collective potential. Diplomatic communication channels across multiple star systems continued to buzz with analysis of the intervention. Scientific institutions developed entirely new research frameworks inspired by the human approach. Economic models were being reevaluated. Governance structures found themselves challenged and reimagined. Lieutenant Marcus Chen compiled the final xenoanthropological report. His analysis went far beyond traditional diplomatic documentation. It was a comprehensive study of how collaborative potential could transform entire civilizational ecosystems. The quantum communication matrices continued to transmit data, but not in any traditional sense. These were adaptive knowledge networks that allowed for unprecedented levels of cross-cultural understanding. Each transmission carried not just information, but the potential for mutual growth. Ecological restoration technologies developed during the mission were already being requested by multiple star systems. The nano-ecological processors had demonstrated an approach to environmental rehabilitation that went beyond traditional conservation methods. They didn't just repair damage. They understood and supported complex ecological systems. Educational modules developed during the mission began to spread across different communities. These were not simple training programs, but adaptive learning ecosystems that could transform how different species understood knowledge acquisition and collaborative potential. The economic models introduced in the mining settlement suggested entirely new approaches to resource management. Transparency, collaborative potential, and ecological sustainability became the new benchmarks of economic success. Captain Rodriguez's final transmission captured the essence of the mission. "We're not here to rule," the message read. "We're here to help you discover your own path to progress." Multiple alien civilizations found themselves processing a fundamental shift in perspective. The humans had entered the system not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as collaborative partners in a much larger journey of collective potential. The quantum computational systems continued to analyze the intervention, discovering layers of complexity that went far beyond the initial mission parameters. Each analysis revealed new depths of collaborative potential. As the human vessel prepared to jump to its next destination, it carried with it something far more significant than advanced technologies. It carried a philosophy of interspecies interaction that challenged fundamental assumptions about progress, potential, and collective growth. The Sigma Draconis system watched as the vessel prepared to depart. What had entered as an unknown entity was leaving as a catalyst for unprecedented transformation. The most profound impact was not technological, but philosophical. The humans had demonstrated that true progress was not about domination or control, but about understanding, supporting, and celebrating the inherent potential of every living system. As the quantum drives began to power up, preparing for the next phase of the journey, one thing became abundantly clear. This was not an end, but a beginning. A new way of understanding interspecies potential was emerging, one collaborative step at a time. The galaxy watched, understanding that something extraordinary had just unfolded.